This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information and to find out how you can volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Harvester by Gene Stratton-Porter. Read by Cindy Steib. Chapter 20. The Man in the Background. Then the Harvester returned to Medicine Woods to fight his battle alone. At first the pain seemed unbearable, but work always had been his panacea. It was his salvation now. He went through the cabin, folding bedding and storing it in closets, rolling rugs sprinkled with powdered alum, packing cushions, and taking window seats from the light. "Our sleeping room and the kitchen will serve for us, Belle," he said. "We will put all these other things away carefully, so they will be as good as new when the Girl comes home." The evening of the second day he was called to the telephone. "There is a telegram for you," said a voice. "A message from Philadelphia. It reads, 'Arrived safely. Thank you for making me come. Dear old people. Will write soon. With love, Ruth.' Have you got it?" "No," lied the Harvester, grinning rapturously. "Repeat it again slowly, and give me time after each sentence to write it. Now go on." He carried the message to the back steps and sat reading it again and again. "I supposed I'd have to wait at least 4 days," he said to Ajax, as the bird circled before him. "This is from the Girl, old man, and she is not forgetting us to begin with, anyway. She is there, all safe. She sees that they need her. They are lovable old people. She is going to write us all about it soon, and she loves us all she knows how to love anyone. That should be enough to keep us sane and sensible until her letter comes. There is no use to borrow trouble, so we will say everything in the world is right with us, and be as happy as we can on that until we find something we cannot avoid worrying over. In the meantime, we will have faith to believe that we have suffered our share, and the end will be happy for all of us. I am mighty glad the Girl has a home and the right kind of people to care for her. Now when she comes back to me, I needn't feel that she was forced, whether she wanted to or not, because she had nowhere to go. This will let me out with a clean conscience, and that is the only thing on earth that allows a man to live in peace with himself. Now I'll go finish everything else, and then I'll begin the ginseng harvest." So the Harvester hitched Betsy, and with Belshazzar at his feet, he drove through the woods to the sarsaparilla beds. He noticed the beautiful lobed leaves on which the rabbits had been nibbling, and the heads of lustrous purple black berries as he began digging the roots that he sold for stimulants. "I might have needed a dose of you now myself," the Harvester addressed a heap of uprooted plants, "if the electric wires hadn't brought me a better. Great invention that! Never before realized it fully. I thought to day would be black as night, but that message changes the complexion of affairs mightily. So I'll dig you for people who really are in need of something to brace them up." After the sarsaparilla was on the trays, he attacked the beds of Indian hemp with its long, graceful pods and took his usual supply. Then he worked diligently on the warm hillside over the dandelion. When these were finished, he brought 6 young men from the city and drilled them on handling ginseng. He was warm, dirty, and tired when he came from the beds the evening of the 4th day. He finished his work at the barn, prepared and ate his supper, slipped into clean clothing, and walked to the country road where it crossed the lane. There he opened his mail box. The letter he expected with the Philadelphia postmark was inside. He carried it to the bridge, and sitting in her favorite place, with the lake breeze threading his hair, opened his first letter from the Girl. "My dear friend, lover, husband," it began. The Harvester turned the sheets face down across his knee, laid his hand on them, and stared meditatively at the lake. "Friend," he commented. "Well, that's all right. I am her friend, as well as I know how to be. Lover, I come in there full force. I did my level best on that score, though I can't boast myself a howling success. A man can't do more than he knows, and if I had been familiar with all the wiles of expert professional love makers, They wouldn't have availed me in the Girl's condition. I had a mighty peculiar case to handle in her, and not a particle of training. But if she says lover, I must have made some kind of a showing on the job." Husband. A slow flush crept up the brawny neck and tinged the bronzed face. "That's a good word," said the Harvester, "and it must mean a wonderful thing to some men. Who bides his time? Well, I'm biding, and if my time ever comes to be my Dream Girl's husband, I'll wager all I'm worth on one thing. I'll study the job from every point of the compass, and I'll see what showing I can make on being the kind of a husband that a woman clings to and loves at 80. Taking a deep breath, the Harvester lifted the letter, and laying one hand on Belshazzar's head, he proceeded: "I might as well admit in the beginning that I cried most of the way here. Some of it was because I was nervous and dreaded the people I would meet, and more on account of what I felt toward them. But most of it was because I did not want to leave you. I have been spoiled dreadfully. You have taught me so to depend on you, and for once I feel that I really can claim to have been an apt pupil, that it was like having the heart torn out of me to come. I want you to know this, because it will teach you that I have a little bit of appreciation of how good you are to me and to all the world as well. I am glad that I almost cried myself sick over leaving you. I wish now I had just stood up in the car and roared like a burned baby. But all the tears I shed in fear of grandfather and grandmother were wasted. They are a couple of dear old people, and it would have been a crime to allow them to suffer more than they must of necessity. It all seems so different when they talk, and when I see the home, luxuries, and friends my mother had, it appears utterly incomprehensible that she dared leave them for a stranger. Probably the reason she did was because she was grandfather's daughter. He is gentle and tender most of the time, but when anything irritates him, and something does every few minutes, he breaks loose, and such another explosion you never heard. It does not mean a thing, and it seems to lower his tension enough to keep him from bursting with palpitation of the heart or something, but it is a strain for others. At first it frightened me dreadfully. Grandmother is so tiny and frail, so white in her big bed, and when he is the very worst and she only smiles at him, why, I know he does not mean it at all. But David, I hope you never will get an idea that this would be a pleasant way for you to act, because it would not. And I never would have the courage to offer you the love I have come to find if you slammed a cane and yelled 'Damnation' at me. Grandmother says she does not mind at all, but I wonder if she did not acquire the habit of lying in bed because it is easier to endure in a prostrate position. The house is so big I get lost, and I do not know yet which are servants and which friends, and there is a steady stream of seamstresses and milliners making things for me. Grandmother and father both think I will be quite passable in appearance when I am what they call modishly dressed. I think grandmother will forget herself some day and leave her bed before she knows it, in her eagerness to see how something appears. I could not begin to tell you about all the lovely things to wear, for every occasion under the sun, and they say these are only temporary, until some can be made especially for me. They divide the time in sections, and there is an hour to drive. I am to have a horse and ride later, and a time to shop, so long to visit grandmother, and set hours to sleep, dress, to be fitted, taken to see things, music lessons, and a dancing teacher. I think a longer day will have to be provided. I do not care anything about dancing. I know what would make me dance nicely enough for anything, but I am going to try the music and see if I can learn just a few little songs and some old melodies for evening, when the work is done, the fire burns low, and you are resting on the rug. There is enough room for a piano between your door and the south wall, and that corner seems vacant anyway. You would like it, David, I know, if I could play and sing just enough to put you to sleep nicely. It is in the back of my head that I will try to do every single thing just as they want me to, and that will make them happy. But never forget that the instant I feel in my soul that your kiss is right on